Barrett, how are you, bud?
Oh, guys, I'm all right. Covering college football and recovering from Sunday's heartbreak as a long-suffering Atlanta sports fan.
Oh, man. Oh, dude.
Run the ball.
Let me ask you this.
Run the ball.
Epic comeback or epic choke job?
Oh, epic choke job.
Thank you.
The Falcons won. They did everything they needed to do to win that game. Like, literally everything.
Except get blown out in the second half.
They proved that they're a better team. They didn't even have to do anything in the second half. They could have just knelt down on the ball in the fourth quarter and won the Super Bowl. They had done everything right up to that point. And yeah, they gave it to New England. New England did not take it. Atlanta gave it to them.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Barrett. If they had actually done that, I mean, you're saying that facetiously, but just say they had actually just knelt on the ball for, I don't know, 12 straight series, or whatever it may be, whatever, and won the game that way, what would we say about them?
That they're geniuses because they have a Super Bowl title. It's the Red Bow offense from the Waterboy, essentially. Yeah, no, I mean, it's
boom. That's from the Waterboy as well.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, like they could have done that. I mean, Matt Ryan literally could have taken the snap and tripped over Alex Mack's feet 3 times after Julio Jones caught that pass, and they'd have won the Super Bowl.
Oh, good God!
It's as an Atlanta sports fan, it is that bad. Like it's as bad as it possibly can get.
Yeah, we know we can put the blame on Kyle Shanahan, but fortunately for you guys down in Atlanta, you don't have the ire to throw at him because he's gone. He's out in San Francisco as the new head coach of the 49ers. What will Steve Sarkisian bring to the Falcons offense? And before we get to that, actually, the question is, how did this departure from Alabama happen?
Well, I think Sark, recognized that Alabama, and I said this when the whole Lane Kiffin thing happened, Sark recognized that Alabama can do a lot for you in terms of getting your feet under you, but it doesn't do much for image rehabilitation because you're not allowed to speak to the media. Nick Saban doesn't allow that. Lane was great for Alabama for 3 years, and yet the best thing he could land was FAU. And so I think Sark recognized that image rehab is something that Alabama just simply does not provide. And so when Atlanta came along, and I mean I think this was long in the works. Nick Saban is prepared for this. Atlanta came along and said, "Hey, we want you to be the OC." He goes, "Well, what do I need Alabama for? I mean, if my image is already rehabbed enough to get an NFL OC job, that's fine." And I think that's it. Sometimes it is as simple as that. I know there's been reports that him and Saban didn't get along or whatever. None of that really matters. I think it is simply Sark realizing that, this was a soft landing spot for him at Alabama anyway, and he was going to have to move on to rehabilitate his image at some point in the near future. It just so happens that the future was literally a month after he got the job.
Yeah, you lay that out pretty well. That's interesting. Barrett, Sallee with us here, SEC Insider, Sirius XM, Alabama. It's called the SEC Smothered and Covered podcast as well, and he's piped into the Falcons. I mean, I'm sure you know Nick on a personal level. Is he ever friendly? I mean, does Nick honestly, man, he seems like the most miserable person in the world.
He is. I mean, you have to catch him at the right moment. When he's in front of the media, no, he's not friendly. He is exactly who he seems like he is. I think you have to catch him at the right time. I go cover the Chick-fil-A Challenge, which is the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl charity tournament that all the coaches play in. It's usually around late April, and he's in his element there. He's in his element with all the coaches and having fun, and he does the media stuff there. He's still in a relaxed mode because for the most part we're talking about fun stuff like golf. Same thing at the Regents tournament in Birmingham that he goes to when the Senior PGA Tour stops there. So he does let loose occasionally, but publicly those instances are few and far between. You have to catch him when he's outside of his football element, which for Nick Saban, that doesn't happen really that often. It happens in those charity golf tournaments and maybe for a week or two at Lake Burton, but that's about it.
Who's he tapping for as a new OC now?
I think it depends on which direction he wants to go. And Mike Loxley was given the role of co-OC. So they could go in that direction. I think they've named him in that spot because they knew that the Sark thing was probably going to happen. They could go get Billy Napier back from Arizona State. He left 2 days before National Signing Day once the dead period hit, and he really hasn't been involved with Arizona State in terms of their recruiting or anything at this point, so they could go get him back if they wanted familiarity. Napier or Loxley could be the guy. Chip Kelly and Mark Helfrich are out there too. They've been in the business of rebuilding careers with their coordinators in the past, so Chip Kelly and Helfrich would fit that bill. I think the one thing with Chip is you're getting him for 9 months. That's it. So do you want to go down this road, next year? That's not the worst thing in the world in coaching because it does happen a lot. Only 2 coaches from the 2015 title team remain on Alabama's staff. But again, essentially Chip Kelly would be a rental. Mark Helfrich probably wouldn't, but they definitely could go in those directions.
We're talking to Barrett Sallee with us here, SEC insider for Sirius XM. Chip Kelly, hot take.
Yeah, well, Chip is interesting. I just think the personalities might not match that well. And actually, their personalities are similar. I think their philosophies won't match that well. How much of a factor was that in both Lane and Sark leaving Alabama?
I don't think it really was that big of a deal. I mean, Lane and Nick, they were sort of the odd couple for 3 years, and they made it work. Was there frustration? Yes. Did it end on a great note? No, not at all. But I don't necessarily think that that the personality thing really is that big of a holdup for Saban, because Saban, I think, is very confident in his ability to be the leader, to be the dictator, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. I think it's really up to the coaches, and in this case up to Chip, to say, okay, can I actually work in this environment? It's something that I think a lot of coaches, if they need, to get their feet back on the ground, like Lane did, like Sark did, they sort of have to swallow their pride a little bit and understand that their tail's going to be, going to be between their legs for a while.
Yeah.
Is Chip Kelly able to do that? I don't know. He may not need. He doesn't really need to coach next year, this year, because he can get a job next December and be fine.
Yeah, and he's getting paid by 2 teams as it sits, and Saban's becoming the head coach whisperer as these guys. Now we talk about Sark leaving Alabama, going to the Atlanta Falcons. He's going to work with Matt Ryan. He's got his great offensive scheme and players that any offensive coordinator could want. But the question I have for you is, given his background, given where he's been, does he have a chance to be a head coach somewhere else?
Yeah, I think he does. It makes it a little while because I think, he's going to have to prove that he's, kind of fixed up his life personally. If he's done that through the last 14 months, great. Is that a big enough sample size? I don't know. Maybe not. But I think he does, just because, people have been around Sark. No, he's as competitive as any coach in the world. He's just an absolute maniac, and I think he has, positioned himself, at least in terms of offensive philosophy, that he's, capable of being an NFL head coach. He's capable of being a college head coach, because for the most part, what he runs is a pro-style offense that is, founded in tempo and creative enough to deal with a bunch of different styles of defense. Is a lot like, the Falcons ran, the Patriots run, everybody in college runs now. So as long as he can prove himself to be clean off the field, I think he'll get a shot within the next couple of seasons. But again, it's going to take time for him to prove that. And I'm not sure, 14 months or however long it's been since he got let go at USC is an adequate amount of time.
No, that's fair. Barrett, really good stuff. Appreciate the interview. Thanks, buddy.
All right, see you guys. Thanks for having me.
You got it, man. Barrett Sallee, SEC insider for Sirius XM.